You know, it's interesting. It's interesting every time someone comes across me and they ask me, "What can you tell me about Jesus?" They say, "Tell me something about Jesus." And every time I do, they always walk away sad. It's very funny, but I also understand the psychological meaning behind the language of their body and the distortion of the look on their face. It's always sad when someone says, "Tell me something about Jesus," because I do. And every time I do, the individual I'm speaking about is an alien, complete alien. The individual I'm speaking about, who exists philosophically within the pages of the Bible, is unknown and is an alien. Now, to really get what that means, I've been thinking about how to articulate this position in a way that's visual for you to see it. And to do so, I'm turning to the Gnostic scriptures to look at just what this may mean. And as this episode of Justification rolls on, you will see why the sadness is that individuals have, the disappointment that they walk away with when actually hearing about the living God's chief messenger. The master said to him, "James, look, I shall reveal to you your deliverance. When you are arrested and you face these sufferings, a multitude of people will arm themselves against you in order to seize you. 3 in particular will lay hold of you, those who sit as toll collectors. Not only do they demand toll, they also take away souls by theft. If you fall into their hands, the one who is their guard will say to you, 'Who are you and where are you from?' You are to say to him, 'I am a son and I am from the Father.' He will say to you, 'What kind of son are you? And to what father do you belong?' You are to say to him, 'I am from the pre-existent Father, and I am a son in the pre-existent one.' He will say to you, 'With what mandate have you come?' You are to say to him, 'I have come at the behest of the pre-existent one, that I may see those who are ours, those who have become aliens.' He will say to you, 'Of what kind are these aliens?' You are to say to him, 'They are not entirely alien, but they are from 𝐎𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐒, who is female. She produced them when she brought this generation down from the pre-existent one. So they are not aliens, they are ours. They are ours because she who rules over them comes from the pre-existent one. Yet they are aliens because the pre-existent one did not have intercourse with her when she was about to produce them. When he says to you again, 'Where will you go?' you are to say to him, 'I shall return to the place I came from.' If you say these things, you will avoid their attacks. If you fall into the hands of 3 detainers who carry off souls by theft in that place in order to them, you are to say to them, 'I am a vessel that is more precious than the female who is your mother. As long as she is ignorant of her root, you also will not become sober again. But I shall call upon imperishable knowledge, who is Sophia, who is in the Father, and is the mother of 𝐎𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐒. 𝐎𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐒 had no father or male companion, but she is a female from a female. She created you by herself without a male, since she was ignorant of those who attained to her mother, and she thought that she alone existed. I shall cry up to her mother." Now this is coming from the first revelation of James. The alien is born from the pre-existent one's daughter, who was conceived from the pre-existent one without a father. Now, I'm not going to go into the scriptures of these folks to understand what that means. I'm going to go into the Bible. Who is the pre-existent one? And it also links up. Who is the pre-existent one of the quote-unquote father? The book of Proverbs. Proverbs 8:22-27, the Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning, or ever the earth was. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains, abounding with water. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills was I brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest part of the dust of the world. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth. Who is this? Proverbs 8:1, doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? Proverbs 8:12, who is this? I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and find out knowledge of witty inventions. When I talk about the actual individual whose name is not Jesus, Yehoshua, Joshua, these are invented mythological names. When I talk about the individual devotional character that should be associated to the individual envisioned as Jesus, he's always an alien. I become the alien, and the individual of reference becomes an alien also. Why? Because the individual of reference was conceived by wisdom and by understanding. By wisdom and by understanding. And to him, he is an alien to everyone else. But to everyone else, they are an alien to him. We're going to look at this. We're going to see the controversy building up from the previous episode of Justification concerning the beauty of this individual that is not desired. We're going to see this. We're going to see the alien that he is. And then we are going to see the alien that everyone else around him is, because that's actually the case. Now, there are two forms of wisdom that the Bible articulates. Two forms of wisdom that the Gnostic texts also articulate in their own creative way. Now, although he is unknowable in his nature and possesses all those supreme qualities I have described, he is nevertheless able, if he so desires, to grant knowledge in order that he may be known. Out of his abundant sweetness, he possesses power, which is his will. For the moment, however, he holds himself back in silence, he who is the greatest, being the cause of the generation of the members of the all into eternal existence. For it is truly his ineffable self that he engenders. It is self-generation, where he conceives of himself and knows himself as he is. He brings forth something worthy of the admiration, glory, praise, and honor that belong to himself through his boundless greatness, his inscrutable wisdom, his immeasurable power, and his sweetness that is beyond tasting. It is he himself who puts forth in this manner of generation, and who receives glory and praise, admiration and love. And it is also he who gives himself glory, admiration, praise, and love. This he has as a son dwelling in him. That's important. We're going to see why. Keeping silent about him. And this is the ineffable within the ineffable, the invisible, the ungraspable, the inconceivable within the inconceivable. This is how he exists eternally within himself. As we have explained, by knowing himself in himself, the Father bore himself without generation, so that he exists by the Father, having him as a thought. That is his thought about himself, his sensation of himself and of his eternal being. This is what in truth is meant by silence or wisdom or grace, as the latter is also rightly called. This is the wisdom of Jesus Christ, which in reality, as it is here perfectly relayed, in reality, Jesus Christ is not a reference to a man. Jesus Christ in contextual language is in reference to a form of wisdom. This is the creative thought process of the Gnostics, who are breaking down in a figurative way the invisible elements that relate to the existence of the human personal and devotional experience and their relation to the quote-unquote father of it all, creator of it all. This is the first form of wisdom, which is called Jesus Christ. And this Jesus Christ has the gender of a he. Not a literal son, not a literal he, but a form of wisdom specifically indwelling that has to be acknowledged by the individual personal and devotional conversation in order to register what that is, which we find in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 1, 2 through 4, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. This first wisdom here is a wisdom pertaining to quote-unquote thought. It is a wisdom pertaining to thought, pertaining to understanding, pertaining to discretion, pertaining to judgment. Being able to do all of that. The gender he qualifies for that because the gender he qualifies as corrector, as instructor, as counselor, as guide, as embodiment, as model, which in the book of Philippians, we get a better illustration of what that means. Philippians 1, 9 and 10. And this I pray, that your love may abound yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment, that you may prove all things that are excellent. That's the entire point. This first form of wisdom is a masculine form of wisdom where correction guides into practical wisdom. Where correction guides into practical wisdom. This is that son. This is that he. This isn't a literal son. This isn't a ghostly figure. This isn't a ghastly embodiment. This isn't a vaporous type of character or figure. This isn't even mythological. This is philosophical in context, the point getting across through a visual illustration of a concept of wisdom via gender, and via gender associated to what that gender connotes, as we all can grasp that when it comes to this type of male energy. This male wisdom energy is the first form of understanding that makes that individual from Isaiah 52 and Isaiah 53, quote unquote, undesirable, having no beauty and being an alien to everyone that is around them.
Let the Bible be your sanctuary of peace, reflection, and wisdom. Let each verse light your path, like a lantern guiding travelers through night's darkest hours. Embrace words of wisdom as leaves to a tree, each one vital for your growth and nourishment. In moments of uncertainty, let its counsel be the anchor, steadying your ship amidst life's stormy seas. Seek counsel not just in joy, but in trials, for in its guidance you'll find a friend. Let every parable, every psalm, resonate within you, creating a heart and soul that is newly attuned to think and feel. Thus, journey with the Bible as your guide and counselor, and let its wisdom light your path to an enduring peace.
Why is the individual in Isaiah 52 the main character, and in Isaiah 53 that same main character observed as being not desired, having no beauty, no form, no comeliness? It's because they are conceived by two forms of wisdom. They are conceived by two forms of wisdom. The first form is masculine. That masculine gets the title of quote-unquote son of the quote-unquote father. This is not a literal son. This is not a literal, nothing here is a literal. This is philosophical, and we have to be able to extract the philosophical context here, lest our minds go into a direction that will damage the routine and the practice, the health and the well-being of the devotional conversation in and of itself. What's here is a play on words. What's here is a play on words. This individual is not desired because he had intercourse with the son of the father, which son has no physical body, is not a physical son, has no physical gender, does not physically, literally, supernaturally, mythologically, superstitiously exist, unless through thought. And this quote-unquote thought has the gender and is given the gender of male because as that male gender is, when applied, the individual is supposed to experience discipline, counsel, understanding, direction for the purpose of discretion and judgment. But that's not the only child coming up out of the figurative quote-unquote father. There is another. Continuing. Whoever knows the Father in pure knowledge will depart to the Father and be at rest in the unconceived Father. Whoever knows him in a defective way will depart to what is defective and experience the rest that the eighth realm provides. Let whoever knows the immortal spirit of light in silence, through reflection and agreement in truth, bring me signs of the invisible one, and such a person will become a light in the spirit of silence. This second wisdom inclines the individual devotional conversation towards service, and in particular, service of enlightenment. This second form of wisdom, their gender, this isn't male, this is female. This gender is female, and this gender highlighted within Proverbs 8. Back to Proverbs 8 really quickly. Proverbs 8, 22 and 23. The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way. Before his works of old, I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning, or ever the earth was. This character in Proverbs 8, we already saw, has the gender of a female. And this gender, this female, they're not literal. This is philosophical and figurative, because the type of wisdom that this is supposed to be of feminine nature, of feminine spirit, meaning that one's members are to be taken care of, and meaning that one is to take care of the members of others through the counsel and instruction and experience that this particular form of wisdom gives. And it doesn't really begin as one can just go out and do something or claim themselves to be someone or whatever you want to put to that. This begins from an inward processing, a working of both the son and the daughter, quote-unquote son, quote-unquote daughter of quote-unquote father. Now, this daughter we find still in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 2, 3 through 6. Yeah, if thou criest after knowledge and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest, what gender is that? Her. As silver, and seekest for what gender is that? Her. As for his treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God, for the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. In correct philosophical context, in correct linguistic context, we are seeing the son and the daughter of quote-unquote father working in these verses. The individual that is really immersing their devotional conversation within the scriptures, they will encounter the quote-unquote son of the living God and the quote-unquote daughter of the living God. These are mystical terms, right? Mystical terms. But the ultimate reality is that the devotional conversation, by reviewing, renewing, rehearsing, experiencing, and exercising the philosophy and the counsel that is at the core of the scriptures, they are going to find their devotional conversations, thoughts, feelings, actions, and behaviors guided by two forms of understanding. The first form of understanding is one of discipline. Discipline for knowledge, instruction, understanding, and correction. The second form of wisdom is one for service. For where that discipline is educating the personal and devotional conversation, the movement towards service will be inevitable, allowing what was learned in that private, silent place to then go out and benefit the members. And not of literal churches, these are inward members, the inward members of other individual, personal, and devotional beings. And still for the purpose of Proverbs 2, still in Proverbs 2. Proverbs 2, 7-9, he layeth up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly. He keepeth the paths of judgment and preserveth the ways of his saints. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and judgment and equity, yea, every good path. See, remember Luke 7:35. Wisdom is justified of all her children. Have to be able to let that tandem work of the son and daughter of the quote-unquote father, because when we're allowing these two to work, well, we are going through an intellectual and philosophical experience that is going to allow a form of spiritual rejuvenation, mental rejuvenation, more importantly, for the aspect that the devotional conversation is to individually have for its individual person. Doing this is the intended devotional experience that the Bible would have its student, its patient go through with it. But this experience isn't all rosy, right? Because the individual in Isaiah 52, Isaiah 53, they are despised. They are not desired. They are marred. Their visage is corrupt and disfigured. They have no form. They have no comeliness. They have no beauty. And yet this individual is the star attraction for the benefit of those that are around them. Going through this experience, one is going to go through some changes. And some of those changes we're going to see in the book of Job. And there's a key word here that I've been saying that pops up. Job 19:14-19, my kinsfolk have failed and my familiar friends have forgotten me. They that dwell in my house and my maids count me for a stranger. I am an alien in their sight. I called my servant and he gave me no answer. I entreated him with my mouth. My breath is strange to my wife, though I entreated for the children's sake of mine own body. Yea, young children despised me. I arose and they spake against me. All my inward friends abhorred me, and they whom I love are turned against me. Now, do you remember Isaiah 53 in verse 3? He is despised, he's rejected, he's a man of grief, he's a man of sorrows. Do you remember that? Well, that's part of the experience. And it doesn't firstly necessarily occur due to what is being received outside of one. It's occurring due to what's being received from within. It may sound as though Job is talking about a literal wife and a literal this and a literal children, inward friends, all of this. It's not literal. Contextually, linguistically, this is all talking about a philosophical stance of what goes on within. And to apply this in 2024, that's literally the best way to look at that. When we're going through an experience where our devotional conversation is being tried and enlightened, what is within us is going to despise us. Our inward friends, our inward members, what is proceeding from within us and out is going to despise us due to the correction received from the wisdom at the core of the scriptures. When we meet the son of the scriptures, when we meet the daughter of the scriptures, use this mystical language to possibly get the idea across. When we meet the son of the scriptures, when we meet the daughter of the scriptures, when we meet the wisdom of discipline in the scriptures, when we meet the wisdom of service and enlightenment within the scriptures, we're going to go through an experience where what is within us is going to change and it's going to hurt because it is receiving correction. Our members that have had no correction, our members that have had no guide, our members that have had no instruction, they are now getting that. Yet there's another form of experience because it is this. First of all, what is within us that is going to become a stranger to us. We're going to become a stranger to ourselves. But there's more. Doing so is going to lead to Job 42. Job 42, 5 and 6. I've heard thee by the hearing of the ear, but now mine eye seeth thee. Personal revelation through understanding. What does it lead to? Verse 6. Wherefore I abhor myself and repent in dust and ashes. It leads into Psalm 73, 22-24. So foolish was I and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel and receive me to glory. This is the fundamental understanding of resurrection. It's not literal. It's inward. It's mental. Happens as your heart is beating right now. Does not happen when your heart is stopped. There is nothing to be resurrected when your heart is stopped. I'm sticking to the core philosophy that is within the scriptures in my speech. Yet, there's more. There's more that the experience will go through to the book of Psalms. Psalm 69, 7-9, because for thy sake I have borne reproach. Shame hath covered my face. I am become a stranger unto my brethren, and, there's that word again, an alien unto my mother's children. For the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up, and the reproaches of them that reproach thee are fallen upon me. In context, one's mother is one's natural religious denomination. One's mother, I don't care where you, not you literally, your devotional conversation is from. It is conceived within the religious world, and it is conceived within a denomination. It is conceived within a church. Your mother is the natural church of your devotional conversation. You can disassociate with that now. You can disassociate with something else. Whatever you believe stems back to that mother. When you're going through this experience that the individual in Isaiah 52 and 53 went through, it's going to cause trouble within, and then it's going to cause trouble without. Meaning, the children of your mother are going to begin to count you as an alien. And we're keeping this in context. This isn't biological. This is mental. This is spiritual. This is religious. The priesthood is going to begin to see you as an alien and as ignorant. Your comrades, the community, still religious, spiritual, is going to begin to see you as needing to disassociate. They need to get away from you. Something's wrong with you. You're going to become an alien. The effect of the Bible's intended experience is an effect where one becomes a stranger to themselves, and then where one becomes a stranger to priesthood, to the children of your mother in that realm. Can't get away from that.
A genuine relationship with the Bible can be difficult. Sometimes we don't know where to begin. Sometimes we don't know how to trust our experience. Sometimes we may be afraid to get too close to our Creator. Perfecting and Reforming Personal Religion will be your guide. This book will make sure your spiritual journey is fulfilling. Don't miss this opportunity to elevate your devotional practice. Embrace the wisdom within its pages and embark on a journey of self-discovery. Grab your copy now and take the first step towards a more fulfilling and enlightened life.
And while that may seem different, I'm telling you about the experience that the Bible's articulating. I'm going through the experience that the Bible's articulating. I can only say so much until you allow your devotional conversation to experience what the intended experience of the Bible is supposed to be. Because quote unquote salvation, it is for what is within you. And what is within you for a specific purpose, reflecting in 1 Corinthians, what is reflected within 1 Corinthians 11, 17-19. Now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not, that you come together not for the better, but for the worse. For first of all, when you come together in the church, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it. For there must also be heresies among you, and this is the key part, that they which are approved may be made manifest among you. So when we're going through that experience, being able to rationalize, we can't see it in the moment, but being able to rationalize the experience in and of itself for the devotional conversation, and to step aside, step aside from your devotional experience. Step aside. Let it gain its character. Let it gain its stance. Let it gain its steps. Let it gain experience. Let it gain. Step aside. Because by doing so, we're going to understand what's wrong with us within to make the necessary corrections. And then we're also going to understand the religious landscape that is around us to be able to understand the needed separation from that. So then when you go back to Isaiah 53, 1 through 3. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form, no comeliness, and when we shall see him, there's no beauty that we should desire him. He's despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. What are we actually looking at here? In everything here, we are looking at an individual who is at war with themselves, both personal and devotional, and this is acceptable. And we are looking at an individual who is at war with the priesthood. This is acceptable. The priesthood does not like them. They do not like the priesthood. What comes up out of this individual devotional character's mouth, the priesthood does not like. What comes up out of the mouth of the priesthood, this individual devotional character does not like. This individual's message is about resurrection. This individual devotional conversation's message is about the resurrection of the devotional conversation, not of the human being, not of anything engrafted superstitiously or mythologically or any kind of that you want to put to the human being. This individual is concerned with what's going on now. This individual is concerned with what's going on within the individual now. Their message revolves around the resurrection, the refreshing, and the regeneration of what is within, and not necessarily personal, ultimately devotional, ultimately affecting the personal. How can I say this? Proverbs 11 verse 9, "An hypocrite with his mouth destroyeth his neighbor, but through what is the just delivered?" But through knowledge is the just delivered. If we're looking for deliverance, it does not come through the blood and bones and body of an individual mythological character. That's not what Bible teaches. Never has been, never will. There's no mythological son of man to turn to. There's no mythological anything to turn to. There's no man God to turn to. Through knowledge shall the just be delivered. Now, this message in Proverbs, it actually leads into and connects with Isaiah 53. That same main individual devotional character. Isaiah 53:11, part B though, part B. "He shall see the travail of his soul and shall be satisfied." Part B says, "By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many." The issue of justification has everything to do with resurrecting what is within by understanding, by wisdom, by knowledge. Now, this isn't knowledge coming from a Gnostic text. This isn't knowledge coming from an expert. This isn't knowledge coming from the Catholic encyclopedia. This isn't knowledge coming from one's quote-unquote mother. This isn't knowledge coming from anyone's brother, sister, father, child. Remember, if you can't stay away from these things, you can't be a part of me. Remember who said that? This is understanding coming from the core of the scriptures. And the experience that's coming from the core of the scriptures is one that is going to give the devotional conversation its character, its thought, its feeling, and its act only by it getting together with the son and the daughter of the living God, or in practical language, getting together with the discipline at the core of the scriptures for wisdom and understanding, and getting together with the experience that is to come from the discipline at the core of the scriptures for wisdom and understanding. We can't live without these two. And so every time I say something about quote unquote Jesus, there's a lot of sorrow. There's a lot of disappointment because no one wants to apply themselves to what the Bible is actually saying the devotional conversation should be experiencing, which is an experience of wisdom and understanding for the sake of personal and devotional resurrection and growth.